Okay, well, welcome to another chapter of CCH 360, um, where we take and look at healing modalities, some driven through the martial arts, some driven through healing arts. And we look for interviews and we look for interesting people that have strived to come forth with modalities that we may be able to share. Uh, we are actually three of us here today with Doc Johnson and Pam Dye, who is here. She's a teacher of Tai Chi through Forever Tai Chi. And my name is Dan Tracy, and I teach part-time Tai Chi in Florida, here in the Titusville area. Okay. You have mentioned in your on your Facebook, and you just mentioned earlier here about um, near life,
Near-death
near
experience.
near death experiences. So, are you using that as a comparison, or have you actually had an near death experience that you experienced?
Yes.
Okay, and so how did you pull all that together?
When you pray, you go into a state that you've achieved in your prayer. It gets you closer to God. Every time you pray, you want to get a little closer. So let me tell you that the experience first to me was a dot in the middle of my head. The second time I had the experience was with the Kundalini ashram, which was a which was like an orgasm, but 7 times a human orgasm. It's like instead of just one area of your nerves opening up all at once with a human orgasm, you had the nerves in every fiber and organ and being of your body all open up at once. It was an experience that you might as well have been shot dead. You are totally gone. There's no difference between the outside and the inside. You are facing the Christ light. It's just you. You're not even there. You are just in the radiance. And it knocked Paul and off his donkey and put him blind. It sent the apostles out of the dungeon into the street. But it's that kind of an experience. Now, for the rest of your life, you want that experience again. So you apply what you've been taught, you continue to eat right, you continue to think right, you continue to help your fellows, you continue to live right. And then every time you get in that position where that experience is accessible to you, and you have the grace with being given that experience again, you are a little more confident of what you experienced the first time. You have a little more understanding, the ability to talk about. It totally convinces you there's a God and that you better act accordingly because you're going to have to face this sooner or later. It is your source. You come from it, you go back to it, and you spend the rest of the time trying to figure out how to get along with it.
You've experienced this. Do you?
Many times, over and over. I live like I live so that I can experience this as often as I'm able to withstand touching the face once again.
Wow. Is
There
that
are
dangerous?
techniques,
I mean, is it dangerous? I mean,
yes,
how
in
do
the
you
Kundalini
distance
ashram.
yourself from that so that it doesn't become dangerous?
I'm lucky because I've worked for years at this. I have been guided by people who actually were masters of these things. They too experienced them on a regular basis. And I was on my knees in church as a young man praying for these kind of experiences that Paul and that the apostles and that saints were having. So I have been fortunate enough and have applied what I learned to living a life that allows me to stay close to that divine presence. And my wife, I'm fortunate enough, is able to experience that with me because she was raised by a couple of Indians in grizzly flats in the mountains. She's such a simple person, and so good, and never lies, and is all organic and eating and cooking, and the chickens love her. So I am so blessed, to be able to live a life that is the first suggestion God made to man, which was live as a man and woman truthfully together in an organic garden, and be with me with truth and light every day that you are on this earth. And by applying that first suggestion that God made to us, I find, the 10 commandments are now 10 promises. Everything the commandments say do, they now tell me that this is my life. I no longer kill. I no longer cheat. I no longer lie. I no longer steal. All those promises that God made the man who would live a life doing to every creature what he would want done to him if he was in the opposite space. I find that all the promises of God's blessings are true. I'm blessed more than I can imagine.
Well, not everybody can be in that kind of environment. I mean, your everyday person lives in cities or whatever. Is this their dream to get
Well,
to this type of?
so did I. I come from the city. I was the son of an FBI agent. I was totally sheltered in an environment of the upper middle class, and it takes a desire to want to get with nature, I think, really. When I realized that all the saints that I really admired really liked living camping, like living among the God's creation, not living among man's creation, but living among God's creation. So I steered my life. I went into the mountain for a time. I came back to the city. I had a band, had my therapy practice for 35 years. I worked on people. And then when I was ready to retire, I got myself, educated about how to live off the land, how to do all these things. And I've put it together. And over the last 15 years, Crystal and I have been able to create from virgin land without destroying any of the beauty that was here. We've been able to make it prosper and feed us and all of the fellow creatures here. And it's just a wonderful life being in nature, praying to God every day, being responsible for your own, needs, and helping any. We live next to an Indian reservation, and I can't tell you the times we've been lucky enough to be able to have the ability to help our fellows. So we live in a world where we can create good karmas, let's say, that enable us to continue living like this. If we were arguing with each other all the time, if we were uh, critical of the way things were, if we were joyful that we have so much freedom, see, then we would lose all this. We know that we're here because God loves his nature to be happy. And we've seen the scientific studies. If you argue around plants, it stunts their growth. So God doesn't want here in nature people who are, nitpicking all the time. He wants people that are happy, that make the plants grow, that makes the animals happy. We don't kill the animals, we don't fence the animals. Everybody here is free to roam around as they like. And this, to me, was the only way I could have the kind of mental attitude that allowed me to face my creator on a regular basis.
The name Maximus, can you describe how you got that?
The name I gave to my band, Maximus, was given to me by the yogi I was telling you about, Father Yod. He was an American. He was a Christian yogi. Uh, think of the monks and that kind of thing. That was what he was interested in. Was the Essene teachings of the monks in the monasteries for the special exercises that would put them in contact with the presence of the Almighty. Now, I was asked to join that group when I was in the Kundalini group because I had a book that I had drawn and written of poetry about being in the Kundalini ashram. And Father Yod had printed his book. So I said, go to Father Yod, see if you can get your book printed. I said, fine, went to Father Yod. When I walked up to his group, I came in from the back. He had a restaurant in a big parking lot, and he had a stage, and his band was playing. And I walked up to this group. It was so bright. The light coming from, they were all dressed in white. You know, all the energy was, I'd never actually seen auras on people. But the light was so bright coming from this group of individuals. And so I said, man, I got to learn about this. I slept in my van in their parking lot for like 3 nights. And I would get up and say, hey, anything I can do to help? I said, well, we need a dishwasher. So I'd go wash dishes, and then they'd all go into their houses, and I'd go to my van and I'd sleep in my van for another night. Well, after 3 days, say, well, you're serious about this. Said, yes, I am. I want to know what you people are doing because you obviously got something more powerful going on than what I'd seen on the other ashrams I'd been in. So I became the dishwasher, and and they had a restaurant, and that's how they kept the thing going. And I learned the techniques, the Asteen yogic techniques, that gave me the ability to, in those exercises, have my first enlightened experience. And when I was bringing a tray of dishes through the restaurant, I hear Maximus, and I froze. And I look over at the table, and there's Father and two of the ladies sitting there. And I look over at him, and he breaks out laughing and goes, I told you he'd know his name. And I walked off, into the kitchen going, oh, darn, you're kidding me. So yeah, I gave it to the band.
Well, Maximus sounds kind of maybe Greek or something in that era.
Circus
It's,
Maximus.
I was going to ask you about, you talked about you were actually writing rhymes and poems back then, and I know you're very active now. So is that a hobby or is that therapy or both or
Oh,
you just want to share? I mean,
you
where
see,
does that come from?
a young man has to decide what tribe he's with. And I decided my tribe was the musicians, the artists. As I developed my ability to be creative, you can't stop. It's like an addiction. So I always have to have a way to release what I see around me. Now with the internet hookup, the world is right at your fingertips. So I'm not doing music anymore. There's no band here. No one plays music around here but me. And so, and drawing it. But the medium today is Facebook and the like. And when I write poems, they always then mix up the way the poem is arranged when you give them a writing, a text.
Yeah.
But if I write my poem the way I want it to appear, and then take a picture of it and then send out that picture, no one can mess with the way the poem's set up. So this gives me an outlet as an artist. When I did music about the way the universe sounds. What is the actual resonance of the water? What is the resonance of a photon or the quantum waves? And so,
Does
oh,
for you.
yeah, then that's just it. That you see, so I'm no longer doing any other things. This is the medium. So this is the way I, as an artist, can vent that. It's a way for me to stay kind of in the game, and I really have nothing to offer anyone. Except the music that I have. And the poetry is something that I know a lot of from what my conversation is online, a lot of people enjoy. And so, I enjoy giving that as an artist because I have no other way to reach the community than through this medium right now. We're living here. We want to bring balance while we're here. That's kind of what we're doing. But we did introduce cats. We don't want them to eat all the chipmunks and the squirrels. So here's a little poem on that. Bring
Okay.
balance. Squirrels get so friendly as pine cones fall. Fat ones in the yard where cats hunt all. So we transfer harvest to a safer place. Cats don't hunt nuts. Danger is erased. Nuts for her pups. Squirrels love oak trees. Snow falls, she can nourish all with ease. Love your labors, you'll never work a day. When love is the reason, everything's okay. We live a simple life. Stress is minimized. Enough for everyone, planning to survive. Application is hard. Knowing's not enough. Too many cats? Who will eat the nuts? Solution applied. We spayed our cats. Balance achieved. Avoid more spats. Solution applied. We spayed our cats.